What's up, guys? So I'm filming this a little bit late, later than I wanted to, but yesterday I went and saw Spider-Man Far From Home, and yeah, I'm going to give a spoiler review. Thought I'd better give the spoiler warning now before the intro, so that as soon as the intro is finished, I can get straight into the spoiler review. So if you haven't seen Far From Home yet, please click off between now and when the intro finishes, because that seems like a pretty reasonable amount of time to find another video to watch or whatever. So yeah, let's get straight into this. All right. So this film is officially the last film of the, I believe they're calling it the Infinity Saga. So everything from now on is release dates have not yet been confirmed. They will be confirmed later in the month, once Comic-Con has happened. So the last couple of weeks of this month and the first couple of weeks of next month are gonna have a whole lot of Comic-Con content. So yeah. Anyway, if you've seen the trailers, you'll know that this film sets it up that it's introducing a multiverse idea, and that because of the snap, the elementals were able to come through from one world, from like a different world into our world, and so on and so forth. That quickly gets sort of disproven, and by quickly I mean like as it's being presented to the audience, it gets disproven by the sheer fact of the Easter eggs that they use. So when explaining the whole multiverse theory, Quentin Beck refers to the Earth that they exist on as Earth 616, which is actually the mainstay universe for the comic books. The MCU has officially been given its own designation of Earth, gotta try and get this right, I think it's 19999. I think there's only 4 nines. I think it's a 5-digit number. It's either a 5-digit number or there's 5 nines. But yeah, so as soon as he's like, this is Earth 616 and I come from Earth, I think it's like 748 or something like that he says, it's obviously straight up just disproven, because they do not exist in the comic book universe, they exist in the MCU. But it is a nice reference to the comic book universe, and particularly being a Spider-Man film, I think that allows, particularly since this was co-produced by Sony, it allows Sony to be like, okay, so the Peter Parker that exists in the MCU is sort of the more comic book accurate one, so that whatever they're doing with their like Venom universe, the Sony Marvel universe, they're able to sort of do their own thing, and they don't have to worry too much about adhering to too many comic books. So that's good for them in that regard. Um, we get a look at Dimitri, who there is a character in the Spider-Man comics named Dimitri. He's the chameleon. He does not actually do anything except sort of chaperone Peter Parker and the rest of his school group to the destinations that Quentin and or Nick Fury need them to be in order for the events of the film to transpire. He's sort of employed by Quentin, who gets asked to help by Nick Fury. So yeah, that's about it. Other than that, he actually looks a lot more like Sergei Kravenov or Kraven the Hunter, which, considering that Mysterio's whole thing is smoke and mirrors, sort of illusions and stuff, could quite possibly be, because even though he is even though the villain is Mysterio, it's never explicitly stated that his real name is actually Quentin Beck. It's actually, in fact, said in the film that Quentin Beck from a separate universe is made up. So it's not actually ever revealed if Jake Gyllenhaal's character's name is in fact Quentin Beck, or if Quentin Beck is just a name that they made up as the alias for Mysterio when he's talking to Spider-Man without his helmet. So yeah, and then of course the only elemental we don't see on its own is the air elemental, allowing us to actually have Sandman, Hydra Man and Molten Man, who are all Spider-Man villains, to actually sort of appear, at least in hologram form. So yeah, obviously, being that he has the whole illusions thing, it is revealed how he is able to do that, and it's revealed that Mysterio used to work at Stark Industries when Tony Stark was alive, and that he actually invented the binary augmented whatever the rest of that acronym is. He invented BARF, and had some other designation for it before Tony renamed it BARF. And then shortly after confronting Tony about the fact that he'd just taken credit for an invention that wasn't his own, Tony apparently fires him, and is therefore, at least in Mysterio's personal storyline, Tony is the bad guy. And it's revealed that he's sort of taken that technology back since Tony Stark's no longer alive, and he's using the holographic imagery that BARF uses to create these holograms, and that it's all just a pre-programmed simulation being run through computers and stuff. We get little flashbacks to other times in Iron Man films where Stark Industries employees were mistreated, whether by Tony or by the villain of that particular film, and it's those people that sort of work behind the scenes while Mysterio's sort of out in front playing the role. So yeah, all in all, it's a pretty good film. The special visual effects, particularly, are out of this world. Obviously, using holograms, and then the whole smoke and mirrors thing that he uses to disorient Spider-Man is phenomenal. And yeah, it's some next level stuff, definitely. Obviously, the love story between Peter and MJ develops further, to the point where they actually sort of start dating, as well as MJ finding out that he is Spider-Man, and yeah, it's a really good film. It's definitely in my top 5. Just trying to think of any of the other sort of big things, because obviously after Endgame pretty much has everything in it. Being a spoiler, there's not really a whole heap in this film that's not already in the trailers. Obviously we know Spider-Man wins the day in the end. Otherwise it wouldn't be a standalone superhero film. Because the only time any of the heroes have actually ever lost was in Infinity War, and that was quickly preceded, followed up by succeeded, whatever. Yeah, it was quickly followed up by Endgame. So yeah, I think the biggest spoilers for this film are actually the post-credit scenes. So let's get into those. The mid-credit scene, which comes just after, so you've got your sort of credits, which is sort of like I'm gonna call them slides, and you've got like the images and the cool music and stuff. And then you've got your mid-credit scene, and then you've got the scrolling credits, and then a post-credit scene. So the mid-credit scene, I'm just trying to think. It follows on pretty much directly from the end of the film. So I'm just trying to remember exactly where this particular scene starts, because you really don't have to wait very long for the mid-credit scene. So to my knowledge, everything's just sort of blending in nicely. I cannot remember where the sort of cut point is at the end of the film officially and the credit scene. But to sort of sum up the last scene and this one, Peter takes MJ swinging through the city, sort of holding onto her and stuff. Actually, I'm pretty sure the post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, starts with them landing in like Times Square or something, and then MJ sort of says she's not doing it again. So Peter sort of says goodbye, jumps up onto a street lamp to start sort of swing away, and then a video is played of Mysterio in sort of his last moments before he died, revealing Spider-Man's secret identity to the world, which obviously freaks Spider-Man out. And the other big reveal from that scene is J. Jonah Jameson, who is played by J.K. Simmons, who also played Jonah in the Raimi trilogy, meaning that, considering that we never see him in The Amazing Spider-Man, movies potentially means that he's always been, and probably always will be, Jonah Jameson, which is really cool. But yeah, we get to see him calling Spider-Man a menace again, and it's great. Good little bit of nostalgia, but he's now Jonah Jameson in the MCU, so that the reports of doing a live-action sort of Spider-Verse film could have more legs to stand on now, which would therefore mean that rather than just being a ruse created by Mysterio, that the multiverse theory is indeed true for the MCU. But time will only tell with that one. And then the post-credit scene is potentially the one that gives me the most to speculate about, and I will make other videos speculating now that we're just waiting for next year. So I'll speculate once I have some more concrete stuff to go on, so after Comic-Con. But it's revealed that Talos and some of the Skrulls are still on Earth, so potentially there's a secret invasion storyline coming, and that Nick Fury is in the Peak, which is the sort of head office tower thing. It's like an orbiting space station thing for SWORD, which is the sentient world Observation and Response Division, I think is what it stands for. Basically SHIELD, but for extraterrestrial threats rather than on-world threats, which ties in really nicely with the whole legacy of Tony Stark thing that this whole movie has going on, particularly since Tony Stark's one of his quotes is that he sees a suit of armor around the world, and so it's only fitting that the film after his death shows that Nick Fury has actually taken that and gone, well, we have the ability to do that with SHIELD, and to sort of set up a separate division for that purpose. And so Earth now has a defense system, which, if you remember in Captain Marvel, in like 1995, it's actually specifically stated that they didn't have that in 1995. So now in 2024, pretty sure it was 5 years later, so 2024, 2025, something like that, we've now got a world security system for extraterrestrial threats, which sort of helps tie in the cosmic side that we're going to be exploring from here on, and the sort of at home on Earth side, the terrestrial side and the celestial side, I guess, is sort of the best way to describe them. So yeah, now that we've got SWORD, that's going to be really cool. So yeah, I was actually looking at it today. I wrote it on my phone, that's why I can't find where I've written it. So as far as big threats go, it is potentially and almost certainly going to be something to do with, on the cosmic side, something to do with Annihilus and the Annihilation Wave, and on Earth I think it was reported to be Norman Osborn, meaning that Peter Parker is going to sort of be the new sort of Iron Man, in that he's going to be like the team leader sort of thing, because Green Goblin's one of his villains. But also the fact that there's a report that Dark Avengers is being considered stands to reason that it could be that since Norman takes on the mantle of Iron Patriot in the comics, that it could be a case of he's going to assemble the Sinister Six, which is something Sony's been trying to do for a long time. Originally Spider-Man 3 was trying to set that up, and then Spider-Man 4, if Raimi had made a Spider-Man 4, was going to have Bruce Campbell as Mysterio. We've now had Mysterio. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was trying to set it up. It was going to have a Vulture and the Rhino, and obviously Green Goblin and Doc Ock, and a couple of other characters as well, sort of teaming up. So now that we've had everyone except Kraven the Hunter from the original comic book Sinister Six, it seems incredibly likely that the third Spider-Man film will be a Sinister Six film. So that'd be kind of cool, because we already know that Scorpion and a couple of his mates want to kick Spider-Man's ass for putting them in prison at the end of Homecoming. So it seems incredibly likely that Norman Osborn will hire these thugs, give them their comic book suits / their powers, whether through some form of the super soldier serum, through advanced technological suits, is obviously yet to be discovered. But yeah, it definitely seems like the Sinister Six is going to be coming soon, and then that'll obviously start up his idea of having a superhero team of his own for Norman, which would then lead into a Dark Avengers, which could potentially evolve into a Thunderbolts team, or the Thunderbolts into a Dark Avengers, either way. Like I said, there's a lot to speculate, and I will be making a speculation video once I've got something more concrete to work with. But for right now, that's kind of it. There's not really a whole heap. I mean, there's all the like little jokes and little subplots that don't really, spoiling them doesn't really spoil the movie, sort of thing. Like, they're just sort of there to help, give what would otherwise be dull moments something to do. But yeah, so and then obviously all the like comedy and stuff that is sort of part of what makes MCU Spider-Man films. What with all of his pop culture references and stuff, they're all still there. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. As I've said now, I think 3 times in this video, I will be doing Comic-Con speculation videos after Comic-Con. Once that convention's finished, I will sort of compile a big list and just do a big speculation video. Maybe I'll do a few, depending on what's revealed and how much of what is revealed. Definitely there'll be one about the lineup for Phase 4 and potentially even Phase 5. So yeah, and then once we have sort of that concrete, this is what's happening, I'll talk about that more. So if you want to see those, make sure you hit the subscription button and the notification bell. My hair just does not want to cooperate today. Stay back there. And yeah, that's definitely everything. I feel like I'm just rambling now. You can follow my socials in the description down below. The links will be in the description down below. I'm going to be continuing my Tumblr story from last month, this month, taking a little bit more time than I thought it would, but considering that I haven't been writing for about 6 months prior to starting this story, it's not really surprising, but make sure you're following that if you want to sort of see how that's turning out. I did write some more today. There'll probably be a new episode, a new part up tomorrow. That is currently the plan. And my Instagram is a private account, but if you message me sort of telling me that you've come from YouTube, I will add you and I will follow you back. Support you for supporting me. Seems only fair. And yeah, that's about it. So until next time, guys, night to A2, and I'll catch you all later.